As the new year arrived, Iran's cities stirred. The final hours of December gave way to public demonstrations that unfolded against a backdrop of military confrontation abroad and mounting economic strain at home. A short but intense conflict with Israel had left senior military figures dead and strategic sites damaged. At the same time, the national currency weakened sharply, prices climbed, and daily life grew more difficult for many households. In the closing days of 2025, protests surfaced in Tehran and then spread outward, moving through cities across central and southwestern Iran. What began as gatherings over economic pressure quickly gained intensity. Chants grew louder, crowds swelled. In several locations, demonstrators directed their anger at state institutions, and in isolated cases, government buildings were set alight. By the first days of 2026, the tone of the streets had shifted. In cities such as Kermanshah, slogans moved beyond prices and wages, signaling deeper political demands. The pace, scale, and symbolism of the unrest suggested that the moment carried weight beyond a routine episode of dissent. I am Naila Khan, and in this session I will guide you through how these events unfolded, why this moment marked a turning point, and what it reveals about the forces shaping Iran's present and future. The state moved quickly. Iran's internal security system activated across multiple regions, deploying Revolutionary Guard and Basiji units to contain the unrest. Streets were sealed, checkpoints appeared, and patrols advanced into neighborhoods where demonstrations had gained momentum. Batons, tear gas, and water cannons were used to disperse crowds, while arrests targeted those suspected of coordinating protests. Clashes followed. In several cities, demonstrators resisted dispersal as pressure mounted. Water cannons swept across streets, and nighttime operations added to the sense of tension. The regular army remained largely absent from visible operations, while internal forces carried out crowd control and enforcement. By the end of the week, large-scale demonstrations had diminished in many areas. The response appeared measured, aimed at reducing momentum without triggering wider escalation. Yet the return of order felt incomplete. The streets were quieter, but the conditions that produced the unrest remained unresolved. As protests unfolded inside Iran, voices from outside the country grew louder. Statements of support circulated internationally, amplified through news outlets and social media. Encrypted channels carried messages urging demonstrators to persist and escalate, while digital content spread rapidly across borders. Iranian officials pointed to these signals as evidence of external involvement, warning of information campaigns designed to influence events on the ground. Images and videos flooded online spaces, some taken out of context or drawn from earlier periods, creating a fast-moving and often confusing information environment. This external attention shaped the dynamics of the unrest. For some participants, it offered encouragement. For others, it raised concerns that domestic grievances might be overshadowed by geopolitical narratives. The crisis increasingly unfolded, not only in the streets, but across digital and diplomatic arenas far beyond Iran's borders. Inside Iran's leadership circles, the situation was assessed with urgency. The unrest followed closely after external conflict and economic strain, compressing multiple challenges into a single moment. Confidence had been tested, and the margin for miscalculation appeared narrow. Economic instability intensified public pressure. Rising prices and currency volatility affected households across income levels. In response, officials announced limited administrative and economic adjustments, signaling awareness of public concerns. Public statements from senior figures began to acknowledge social pressures, reflecting a shift in tone compared to earlier episodes of unrest. At the same time, cohesion within security and governing institutions was treated as essential. Decision-makers focused on maintaining unity, reinforcing command structures, and preventing any signs of fragmentation. The priority was clear: restore control, stabilize the situation, and prevent escalation into a broader crisis. By mid-January, the immediate wave of demonstrations had subsided. Markets reopened, connectivity returned in many areas, and daily routines resumed under heightened observation. On the surface, the system had contained the unrest, yet the pause offered no final resolution. Economic pressures persisted, and broader debates about governance, accountability, and representation remained unsettled. The protests had not transformed into a sustained movement, but they had exposed underlying tensions that could resurface. Several paths lie ahead. One involves gradual adjustment through economic relief and limited reform. Another relies on tighter control and deterrence to maintain stability. A third, less predictable path could emerge if future shocks converge with unresolved grievances. For now, Iran stands between outcomes rather than at an endpoint. The events of early 2026 closed a chapter, but they did not conclude the story. What follows will depend on how pressures evolve and how both society and the state respond when the next moment of strain arrives. Thank you for staying with us through this deep dive into one of the most critical moments in Iran's recent history. If this analysis helped you see the bigger picture behind the headlines, please support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, and turning on the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Your support helps us keep bringing clear, thoughtful breakdowns of complex global events. Until the next video, stay informed and stay curious.